Hare Krishna. Let us begin with this prayer. Om Ajnanaatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome back to Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. Apologies, I couldn't take the session last week because of some other service. So let us begin the chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita. Now only 2 chapters remaining to complete our entire Bhagavad Gita sessions. So we have seen up to 16th chapter last week, in the last session. And today we are going to start on the chapter 17, which is in English, Srila Prabhupada has named it as the divisions of faith. In Sanskrit, this chapter is named as Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. So same divisions of faith, Shraddha, and it talks about there are 3 divisions. So that is why there is a word called Traya, Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. And this chapter has 28 verses. We will see how far we can reach today. So in chapter 16, when Lord Shri Krishna finished that chapter, towards the end, he mentioned that who is divine and who is demoniac, like one major difference that he highlighted. Anyone remembers what was that main difference? Like there are different qualities which are there of divine people and demoniac people, but still, Lord exactly pointed out what is the main difference between the divine and demoniac. Does anyone remember? Yeah, Surananda Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the people who follow the instructions of Vedas are divine, and the people who doesn't follow are demonic.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So the people who are following the injunctions of the scriptures, the rules and regulations given in the scriptures, these people are called divine. And those who are acting against the scriptures, they are called demoniac. Now, based on that classification, Arjuna then, like a question came into his mind. So that is where this chapter begins. Let us start there. Let us see what question he is going to ask. Arjuna Uvacha Ye Shastra Vidhimustrujya Yajante Shraddhayanvitaha Tesham Nishtha Tuka Krishna Satvamaho Rajastamaha. Who wants to read? Yes. Surananda Prabhu can do the first one, then Kalakali Mataji or Sevakraj Prabhu, and then Pamendra Prabhu, the third one. Okay. In that order we can go. You're on mute, Surananda Prabhu. Yeah.
Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scripture but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance?
Yeah. So he has understood the point which the Lord has mentioned. He has understood the distinction that the Lord has given. Those who follow the scriptures were divine, and those who do not follow the scriptures, they are demoniac. So that is why he is asking, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scripture but worship according to their own imagination? So it is not that they are not worshipping at all. They are worshipping, but they are not following the scriptures. So where do they stand? Like in uh, the banyan tree that the Lord explained in the 15th chapter, he is now trying to figure out where do these people who are actually worshipping faithfully, like they have some faith, but this is not based on scriptures. So what is their situation? Where do they stand on this banyan tree, or what is the mode that they are following? So this is the question that he got in his mind. So let us see. So he has understood this. We have already talked about that those who are faithfully following scriptures, they are divine, and that leads to perfection, happiness, and supreme destination. That was what mentioned earlier by the Lord in the previous chapter. And those who discard scriptural injunctions, they are demoniac, and then there is no perfection, no happiness, no supreme destination. But faithfully, what about those people who are faithfully following rules which are not mentioned in the scriptures? They are whimsically creating some rules because they are not, they haven't studied scriptures. Either they haven't studied scriptures, or they have studied, but they are thinking that that is too difficult to do. So they are creating their own some rules. So they are faithfully following some rules which are not as per the scriptures. So what is the situation? Are they in goodness, passion, or ignorance? And how can they progress? So this is not directly asked in the question, but that is the implied question. So what about them? What happens to them? That kind of question Arjuna is asking. Let us see what the Lord now responds to this question. Surananda Prabhuji, you have some question or comment, or it is just from before?
Yeah, just before.
Okay, fine. Okay, let us go ahead. What the Lord has answered now. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Shruno.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds: in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now, hear about this.
Yeah, let us read the third one as well, and then we will discuss this because it is related. Satvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata Shraddhamayojam purusho Yo yat Shraddha sa eva saha.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
O son of Bharata, according to one existence, under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. So very clearly, the Lord is explaining. So let us see what he has mentioned in these two verses. So Lord is saying that if one is not following scriptures, scriptures means scriptures is actually sharpening the intelligence. It gives the discrimination to people that what to do and what not to do. And that is what is actually differentiating between the divine and demoniac that we saw. So if one is not following the scriptures, then one will follow the natural instincts. So if you are not using the intelligence, you are using your mind. And the mind is in particular mode. It has this natural instinct. And depending on which mode that the mind is having predominant, that is how the person will act naturally. So this natural instinct will be in goodness, passion, or ignorance. And they are acquired according to previous activities. Like whatever activities we have done for many lifetimes, and somehow or the other, we have created those habits, and the mind has actually absorbed lots of um, the impressions and those samskaras which are there, and that is how our mind is in goodness, passion, and ignorance. And Srila Prabhupada actually mentions in the purport later on in these, especially in the purport of the second verse itself. So he actually answers, yes, this is right, but how to change this as well? So how to change it? We have to change the activities itself. And by associating with bona fide spiritual master, we follow the rules and regulations given in the scriptures, and then we can become pure and worship Krishna. So this is how the process is. But just to focus on Arjuna's question, that where are these people, what is their position, who are not following the scriptures directly, but still they are faithfully doing some process, some worship they are doing. So Krishna is saying that because they are not following the scriptures, they are following their own mind, and the mind will be in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So that means their faith is either in mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. And we can, Srila Prabhupada explains that we can purify ourselves by following the spiritual master who will lead us to following the rules and regulations given in the scriptures. And then that is how we can move from thinking, move from our decisions being taken by mind to our decisions taken by intelligence. And that way we will become pure and slowly will worship Krishna. So one important thing that we can learn in this 3 verses is that we have to understand and improve our modes by the help of a bona fide spiritual master and abiding by the rules of scriptures. So this is how the 2 things should guide us. Actually, 3 things, but Guru and Sadhu are included in the first one. So bona fide spiritual master and the scriptures. So we always say that we should follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So this is what the Lord is trying to tell us, and Srila Prabhupada is going further and explaining us in these purports. That if you want to actually become more and more divine, then simple solution is just follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Guru is your spiritual master. Sadhu is your even like many Shiksha Gurus that you can have, or other senior devotees around you who are also in the same parampara and they're aligned with Guru and Shastra. And of course, the third one is Shastra, the scriptures that we have to follow. So anyone who is following the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, very soon, whether their faith is in goodness, passion, and ignorance, or they are even completely demoniac, they can actually come and become divine. They will develop all those 26 qualities which were mentioned in the 16th chapter earlier in the first few verses. And we will give up those 6 qualities which were mentioned of the demoniac people. So this is the most important part that we can learn from this chapter. And the remaining chapter is just explaining these in more details. So we'll see this further. So now the Lord starts explaining different things by which we can understand where the person's faith is. Where is that person's Shraddha is? So either we can look at the person's activities, which are who he is worshipping, or what kind of charity he's giving, what kind of austerity he's doing, what kind of food that person is eating. So all of these things explains that this person is in goodness, passion, or ignorance. So when we actually complete this chapter, you will have quite a lot of understanding of how to identify the person's modes. But I would seriously request everyone to not apply this for others. All these things that we are learning, I suggest that we apply it to ourselves and see where we are standing. What is our real mode? And at a high level, we are talking about this goodness, passion, and ignorance. But they can be compared to 3 different colors. And these 3 colors, like each of these color, when it is mixed with the other 2 colors, then that creates, instead of 3 colors, now we will have 9. Now each of the color in the 9, if it is mixed with other 8 colors, then we will have total 81 different colors. And this can just go on like this 81 colors, like each of these 81 colors, if it mixed with other 80 colors, then more and more subtle shades will be created of the colors. It is same for these modes as well. We are at a very high level, we are classifying them that someone is predominantly in goodness, predominantly in passion or ignorance. But it is not as clear as this. There are quite a lot of subtle variations which are there. And that is why even those people who we may say that they are predominantly, these 2 people are in mode of goodness, but still they won't be exactly same, because there will be a lot of subtle variations in their modes will be there, and depending on that their actions will be little different from each other, and that is our individuality that is there. But the most important part from understanding what activities are in goodness, what activities in passion, and what activities in ignorance. The two things that we can do. First, we identify which mode we are in currently. And the second is we can understand that, okay, I'm doing this particular activity in mode of ignorance. And I see that if I do this activity little differently, then it actually is classified as passion. And if I do it like this, it will be classified as goodness. So you can use this as a guidance that, okay, this is how I can move from ignorance to passion, passion to goodness. So the activities can help you to identify your modes, but the activities will also help you to correct your modes. So both things we should try to do. So understand where we are and improve from where we are. So this is what this practical tip is explaining to us. We can understand where we are and we can improve from where we are. And this we can do through by taking the shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So now this remaining chapter is quite interesting because it gives the classification. And when I initially, like first time I read this chapter, it was quite fascinating that it was specifically giving you the idea that, okay, if I give the charity like this, that is goodness. If I eat food like this, it is passion. If I do austerity like this, it is ignorance. So it gives the classification of various different activities. So let us jump into that classification. And the Lord starts with explaining worship in three modes in the next verse, 17.4. Let us see what he says. यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसा प्रेतान् भूतगणाश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनः.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, go ahead, Prabhuji. Say Prabhuji.
Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons. And those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So here the Lord is explaining the worship which is in three modes. Interestingly, this doesn't explain the worship of Supreme Personality of Godhead because that's not in goodness, passion, and ignorance. It is explaining that the person who's in goodness, he is actually worshipping devatas. Like he can worship the Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Chandra, Indra, Sun God, or all the other devatas which are there. The person who's in passion, he worships some powerful people, but they are not following scriptures. They are demons in a way who are not following the scriptures, but they are quite powerful in their own way. And the people who are in ignorance, they are worshipping ghosts and spirits. So they will do this black magic. They will learn how to worship the ghosts and spirits so that they can get their desires fulfilled somehow or the other from these spirits. So this is how, by looking at the person's worship, who they are worshipping, we can immediately understand that, oh, they are, looks like their worship is in goodness, passion, or ignorance. And someone will say that why someone will worship a demon. Now, demon, as we have actually already discussed, demons are not like someone who has these horns, rakshasas like that in on their head. Demons are just people who are not following scriptures. And the Lord explains a little bit further in the like in the next two verses. He is revising who are the demons. But if we see, there are many people who have lots of photos of some sports stars, or lots of photos of some actors or actresses. So in a way, for them, these are their idols. These are the deities that they have created for themselves, who they are worshipping. And some people literally starts worshipping them. There are some places in India, even they have some temples of some sports stars, some temples of some film stars as well. So it is not that the Lord is just saying that, oh, the people in mode of passion are worshipping demons. Uh, and some of these people may be actually divine people, but I'm saying that in general, we can actually see that people who are just worshipping someone strong, some politicians, but they don't have to be like divine people. And of course, ignorance, they are worshipping ghosts and spirits. So the worship of Krishna is above all these three modes. And that is why Srila Prabhupada is actually recommending that we should actually worship Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. Why we should actually settle even on worship in mode of goodness. We should go beyond goodness. We should go to Shuddha Sattva. And that is how we can, that we can do by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So this is one of the most important part. And Krishna actually says that towards the end of this chapter. But we are actually talking about this because worship is being mentioned here. Now let us go and like Krishna is now, Lord Shri Krishna is revising these demoniac people just so that we understand who they are. Let us look at what the Lord says. अशास्त्र विहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपोजनः दम्भ अहंकार संयुक्ता कामरागबलान्वितः कर्षयन्ता शरीरस्थं भूतग्रामम् अचेतसः मां चैवान्तशरीरस्थं तान् विद्धया असुरनिश्चयान्. Yes, Nivas Prabhuji, and then Mahendra.
Hare Krishna,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
yes, Mataji.
Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements of the body as well as the super soul dwelling within, are to be known as demons.
Quite graphic explanation the Lord is giving for the demons, and quite a lot of different points he has mentioned. First of all, he's saying that these people can also undergo severe austerities and penances, but they do this which are not even recommended in scriptures. They try to do the austerities and penances which are not given in the scriptures. They are very severe, like the austerity which Hiranyakashipu was doing. Very severe austerity and penances which were not really recommended directly in the scriptures. And these people sometimes perform them out of pride and egoism. So this is for getting some acknowledgement from others so that other people can see that, oh, look at that. This person is doing this wonderful puja at their home, this wonderful yajna that they have done. And this yajna is much better than this other person who had done. Or this person has given charity, which is much more than this other person had given. So that is what they are actually looking for, some recognition. And their austerities, worships, pujas, or whatever, they are with some desire. There is some lust and attachment. They are not doing it out of selflessness. They are foolish. They torture the material element of the body as well as the super soul dwelling them. The super soul is also thinking that, hey, why I'm staying in this body when the person is torturing the body like this. And such actions are an insult to Supreme Personality of Godhead because acted out of disobedience of the scriptures. Scriptures are given by the Lord as instructions to all of us. So those people who are going against the instructions, they are going against the Supreme Lord. So that is the logic. So they are in a way insulting the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they are insulting the Supreme Lord himself. So these are the people who are there. Now the Lord is actually going to define what all kind of activities which are there by which we can define the modes of a person. That is mentioned in the 7th verse. आहारस्त्व अपि सर्वस्य त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानं तेषां भेदम् इमं शृणु.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, please go.
Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So there are multiple things which are mentioned here. So activities that define our modes. So worship was already explained, the three modes. Then he mentioned that the food. So even the food each person prefers is of three kinds. according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true for sacrifices, austerities, and charity. And now he is saying here the distinctions of all these things between them. So for the three modes, he's going to explain food in three modes, sacrifice in three modes, charity in three modes, austerity in three modes. And he has specifically selected these 5 things here. One, the law. So Arjuna asked about the faith. Where is the Shraddha of the person is lying when they are uh, when they have some faith, but the faith is not in scriptures. That is why the worship is mentioned, because the worship is explaining where is the faith. Then food is an input to our body, and that is actually developing quite a lot of like it gives the duration of life, purity, strength, health, and happiness generally. So depending on the food, all of these are getting affected. There is a famous saying as well, is that you are what you eat. So depending on what you eat, you develop the modes, you develop the nature and qualities. In the Vedic system, there's yajna, dan, and tapa is given quite a lot of importance: sacrifice, charity, and austerity. Yajna means sacrifice, dana is charity, and tapa is austerity. Now, it is not randomly that the scriptures were giving importance to these three: sacrifice, charity, and austerity. The reason why these three are given emphasis all over the scriptures is because our system, like this world, is created where some cooperation is required, some harmony is required. And that harmony, cooperation is required amongst three things. One, the devatas. Second, with the people or the living entities around us. And the third, with our own mind and body. And if you actually see, there are three kinds of problems that we actually face in this world, which are Adidaivik, Adibhautik, and Adhyatmik. So these three kinds of problems that we face. So these three things, sacrifice, charity, and austerity, we can actually, if we do it properly, we can come above these three problems of Adidaivik, Adibhautik, and Adhyatmik. How? So sacrifice, by doing sacrifice, we are keeping the demigods happy. So that means Adidaivik problems will be taken care of. By doing charity, by giving charity, dana, then we are keeping other living entities around us happy. And that is how Adibhautik miseries are taken care of. So if like the people around us are happy, why will they actually give any klesha to us? Why will they give misery to us? If the devatas are happy, why will they give miseries to us? So if we do sacrifices properly to the devatas, then Adidaivik miseries are gone. If we do a charity properly to all the other living entities around us and they are happy, then Adibhautik miseries are gone. And if we do austerities properly, then that will keep the mind and body under control. And that is how our Adhyatmic miseries will be also gone. So if we want to become free from these Adidaivik, Adibhautik, and Adhyatmic miseries, then we have to learn to do sacrifice, charity, and austerity properly. And depending on how we are doing these three things, our modes are also can be determined. We can understand our modes, and then improving on the activities, we can also improve our modes. So let us look at the food, which is in three modes from the next verse onwards. 8, 9, and 10 are giving food which is in three modes. Ayu sattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhanaha rasyah snigdha stirarudya ahara satvika priyaha. Who wants to read? Yes, Pamindra Prabhuji, and then Mataji you can do, Surananda Prabhu, you can do the next.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purity, one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So food in mode of goodness is given here. So what is mentioned, food dear to those in mode of goodness increase the duration of life. The purpose of food is fulfilled by eating food which is in mode of goodness. So it increases the duration of life, it purifies one's existence and gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Who don't want like this? So all of these things are achievable by eating food which is in mode of goodness. And what is the characteristic of such food? Such food is juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. That is how the food is. So purpose of food is increasing the duration of life, purifies one's existence, gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. And all of this can be achieved by eating food which is juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Now, juicy, fatty, wholesome, pleasing to the heart, it doesn't actually give exactly what items to be eaten. And that is why the acharyas have explained to us, looking at different scriptures, that what kind of food will actually fall into this category. So it is mentioned that the milk products, grains like rice, wheat, then we can have sugar and many other things. Like even it is said the juicy is mainly the juicy vegetables and juicy fruits. So that should be eaten. Then what was the next? Juicy, then fatty. Then fatty doesn't mean animal fat. Only animal fat that is okay for people in mode of goodness is coming from milk. So milk, ghee, butter, um, all of these things like yogurt, paneer, all of these things which are coming from milk, that kind of fat is okay. But the fat coming from the slaughterhouses, that kind of fat is not okay. That comes into mode of ignorance. So the fatty here is referring to fat coming from milk. Wholesome. It should have some vital benefits coming from it. So that will give the strength and health and happiness to our body. And it should be pleasing to our heart. If someone is dying, like slaughterhouses, if animals are getting killed, and then we are eating that food, it will definitely not bring any pleasure to the heart. So, because the violence will only beget violence. If we want happiness, then the food has to actually come in that mode. So that is what is mentioned here. So very simple logic is given that what is the food in mode of goodness, what are the characteristics, and what is the benefit of eating that kind of food. Now the next verse is explaining the food which is in passion. Let us look at what comes in passion. Katva amla lavanatyoshna tikshna ruksha vidahinah ahara rajasaseshta dukkha shoka maya pradaha.
Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So here the characteristic of food which are in passion are given. So it is said that food which is too bitter. So even the verse itself, you can see it has quite a lot of sharpness to it. Katva, amla, lavanatya, ushna, tikshna, ruksha vidahina. So quite a lot of sharpness is there in that verse. So that is how the food in mode of passion is there. So it is katva. Katva means it is too bitter, too sour, then too salty, too hot, too pungent, too dry, too burning. These are all the food which are dear to people in those in mode of passion. And such food cause distress, misery, and disease. Like the food in mode of goodness was giving, they were pleasing to heart, they were giving strength to the body, they were healthy, they were healthy and bringing happiness and satisfaction. But whereas this food in passion is bringing distress, misery, and disease. Now, distress refers to the misery or the pain that is felt when you are eating it. Sometimes there is a food which is too hot, like too spicy, and people have like the tears coming from their eyes. The nose is also dripping, and that is so spicy that is there, and they are still eating it. They are thinking, "Oh, I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it." So while eating, there is distress. Then it is said it creates misery. So misery is referring to the depression that one feels after eating such food. So immediately while eating, you are feeling distressed. Then afterwards, it has like a depressing effect on your mind. In other ways, we can also say that the misery that you feel the next day morning when you go to the toilet, you have while eating there was a problem, while passing out that is a problem. And of course, it creates diseases as well. Quite a lot of disease are created because if you eat too bitter, too sour, too salty, too hot, pungent, dry, and burning food. So some of the examples are here that too much chili, if someone eats, then it will create stomach ulcers, gastritis, insomnia. Insomnia because the mode of passion food, um, it increases the temperature of the body. And we can't sleep when the temperature is high. So it requires some time to dissipate that heat, which is generated by spicy food. And only when the temperature goes down, then it is possibility that we can sleep properly. Then too much salt, then high blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes comes. If you are eating too much onion garlic, which is comes in passion and ignorance both, then problems of bad breath, or even the body odor as well changes if you are eating onion and garlic. It creates low blood sugar, heartburn, increases bleeding, gastrointestinal upsets. It increases agitation and aggression. So that is why Ayurveda says that all of these, onion and garlic especially, they say that they are harmful physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually because it creates aggravation, agitation, anxiety, and aggression into us. Of course, those who are in passion, they want this aggression, they want this agitation, aggravation that they want. So for them, it is okay. But for people who want to advance spiritually, they want their mind to be calm, satisfied, peaceful, and happy. If that is your intention, then it is not a good idea to eat a lot of onion and garlic. So that is why it is classified as in um, food which is in passion as well as it comes in ignorance. Let us look at ignorance and it will also make it clear why it is considered there. Next one, verse number 10. Yatayamam gatarasam puti paryushitam chayat uchchishtam apicha medhyam bhojanam tamasapriyam.
Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So food which is in mode of ignorance, food in ignorance. The characteristics given is they are prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. So food which is prepared 3 hours before being eaten. So they are stale food. Only exception that is there is prasadam. So you have cooked within 3 hours, you have offered to the Lord, and then you are eating it. And then that means because you have offered to the Lord, it has become transcendental. So you can eat after that. But otherwise, it becomes food in mode of ignorance. Then food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid. Decomposed food, even the meat. Meat is actually it's already starting to decompose. As soon as the person dies, or like person means that animal dies, the uh, the flesh starts to decompose. So that means that also is coming here. And the meat is actually coming into this category decompose, as well as it says the food which cannot be touched, untouchable thing, which is again referring to eggs, fish, or any meat. All of those items are coming into untouchable. So stale food, food that is tasteless, decomposed, putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in mode of ignorance. So all this kind of food increases laziness in us. Our our sleep increases because sleep is mode of ignorance. Madness, foolishness, infection, and disease. All of these will come by eating food which is in mode of ignorance. So this is why we have to avoid the food which is in ignorance and passion, and always try to eat food which is in goodness. So this is what we are learning from this. You become what you eat. Like we are absorbing the characteristics of food within when we are eating them. Hence, we have to avoid food which is in passion and ignorance, and eat only food which is in goodness, which is like milk products, milk, butter, ghee, paneer, yogurt, rice, wheat, grains, pulses, beans, vegetables, sugar, etc. But best is eating only prasadam, which is in pure goodness. So you cook food which is in mode of goodness, and then that kind of food is then offered to the Lord, then that becomes prasadam. So this is what we need to actually start doing. So then instead of eating food in mode of goodness, we are now eating food which is in a transcendental mode, which is in Shuddha Sattva. So that is what is required from all of us as a devotees. Yes, Rajiv Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Very interesting, especially food cooked within 3 hours it should be consumed. How can in the life that we are living right now, where we're away from home for long duration, how do we maintain the 3 hours of sort of like not everyone cooks at work or yeah, that's one. Second is there probably guidance given on how to prepare food of the first kind, the sattvic food? There's not everyone's used to cooking that way.
Yes,
Uh,
very good question.
like for example, at our place we use our whole like any food that's tempered, it's tempered with onion and garlic. So how do you cook without that?
Yeah,
If there's
definitely. Yeah, very good questions, both of them. Like when we are going to work, of course, the food is cooked in the morning, early in the morning, and then we are eating at 12 o'clock or so. So how do we maintain this and doesn't turn it into mode of ignorance? So the answer is already given. So as soon as you cook, you can offer it to the Lord, and then it becomes prasadam, and prasadam can be eaten little later. So then that 3 hour limit is not applicable. But of course, it is still not that you eat food because it is prasadam, you can eat it after 4 days. Because still it will start decomposing. It is not good for your health. So even the food is transcendental, your body is not transcendental. So we have to understand that and make sure that we are eating food as fresh as possible after it has been cooked. So simple, cook, offer to the Lord, and then you can have little later as well. So you're cooked in the morning, you can have in the afternoon. That's okay. And about the food, like not everyone understands how to cook without onion and garlic. So everyone goes through the same problem. Like for example, we were also eating like 20 years before, we were also eating onion and garlic. And without that, it was almost impossible to cook anything. And we were thinking that, yeah, that is not possible for us, that we can't do anything. But as you can actually see, all over the world, we have ISKCON restaurants in lower, like in Lambton Key as well in city, we have Higher Taste. And other places as well, almost every country wherever there is ISKCON temple, there will be also some restaurant where the food will be served. All the food in such places is cooked without onion and garlic. And many people who are coming to the restaurant doesn't even know that this Hare Krishna restaurant, because they are just thinking it's one other restaurant, just like a vegetarian restaurant. And so this is another restaurant. And they come and eat chole, they will come and eat pav bhaji, they will come and eat even chaat items or even some other dishes. And they feel that, oh, this is amazing, this is very tasty. So there is definitely a certain way of preparing it, and we can overcome this hankering that we have for a particular taste. So we are also planning to, over a period of time, when we get some opportunities, we are also trying to do some cooking classes where the people will be understanding how we can cook in food which is in mode of goodness, and how we can offer it and make it even mode of Shuddha Sattva mode that is there. But in the meantime, if you are interested in a particular recipe, that how this particular item can be cooked without onion and garlic, you can send me a message or my wife a message of a recipe, and she will guide you. There are a lot of books which the devotees have written, the recipe books, which actually explains how we can do sattvic cooking, the food which is in mode of goodness. So we have in our bookshop as well. So if you are interested in particular books, I can recommend some to you. And you can try one book, try doing some recipes and see if it works for you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Fine. Hare Krishna. Let us move ahead. And now the Lord is explaining the sacrifices in three modes in the next verses. So 11, 12, and 13, these three verses are explaining the sacrifices done in three modes. Afalakangsha अफलाकांक्षिभिर्यज्ञो विधिदिष्टो य इज्जते यष्टव्येव्यमेवेति मनः समाधाय स सात्विकः. Who's next? Okay, Aminder Prabhuji, you can.
Hare Krishna. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the direction of scriptures as matter of duty by those who desire no reward is the nature of goodness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So sacrifice in mode of goodness is explained here. So what is mentioned here? A sacrifice which is performed out of duty. There is no desire that is there, that I am doing this sacrifice, I am doing this yagya, or I am giving this to devatas with this desire. I'm doing this puja yagya for achieving something. No, I'm just doing it out of duty. And this kind of sacrifice is done according to scriptural injunctions, not desiring any reward. So that is the sacrifice which is in mode of goodness. Now, against that, in contrast to that, the mode of passion, let us look at how people in mode of passion are doing sacrifices. अभिसन्दाय तु फलं दम्भार्थम् अपि चैव यत् इज्जते भरतश्रेष्ठ तं यज्ञं विद्धि राजसम्. Yes, Mahendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride, O chief of Bharatas, you should know to be in the mode of passion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So in mode of passion, they are desiring some material benefits. For example, we were just talking about you're doing some puja, some sacrifice yagya you're doing, but you are expecting something back from the devatas. So that is the sacrifice in mode of passion, desiring some material benefits. Or they are doing for the sake of pride. Someone else has done something, I want to do better than that, so that people will actually praise me and their pride will increase. So that is why they are doing the sacrifice. Now the people in mode of ignorance are completely different. They have completely different understanding. So let us look at how do they do sacrifices. Vidhihinam asrashtannam mantrahinam adakshinam shraddha virahitam yajnam tamasam parichakshate. Yes, Gita Jayanti Mataji, you can.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of scripture without distribution of prasadam or spiritual food, without chanting of Vedic hymns and remunerations to the priests, and without faith is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. So in ignorance, there is disregard to scriptures. If scriptures are saying do like this, they will do something else. And the prasadam, like if there is a yajna that is done, prasadam must be distributed after that. If there is some yajna which is done, and if there is no prasadam distribution after that, it is in mode of ignorance. Even if you do everything properly, but if the prasadam is not given, is distributed to Brahmanas, Vaishnavas, and to all the other people who are there, then that yajna is in ignorance. Where no Vedic hymns are chanted, or they are just doing some fire sacrifice, but without chanting any Vedic hymns. This is quite interesting point where no remuneration to priest is given. If you do a yajna, if you call a brahmana at home and you do not give the remuneration, some dakshina is not given to the priests, then that yajna is also in ignorance. And of course, the person is if doing yajna without any faith, like he is just doing it out of the norm or whatever, he doesn't have any faith in that yajna or any sacrifice that he is doing. So that yajna is also in mode of ignorance. This is why we always recommend that don't forget, like if you are sitting for initiation yajna or some other yajna, definitely try to give some dakshina to the priest who is actually doing that yajna. And the same logic applies to any visiting sannyasis, visiting devotees, because they are also doing Sankirtan Yajna. They are going all around the world doing the Sankirtan Yajna. So when we are participating in that Sankirtan Yajna, by hearing the process of how to do Sankirtan from them, and then it is customary to give them some little dakshina, some remuneration should be given to them. And it is not for their enjoyment or anything. They are utilizing all of that in Krishna's service only. It allows their services to be continued. So that is why we should always try to give some remuneration. So all of these things which are mentioned is making them the yajna into mode of ignorance. Disregards to scriptures, no prasadam distribution, no Vedic hymns are chanted, no remuneration to priest, and without faith we are doing. That is all sacrifice in mode of ignorance. So we can understand what to do. Of course, we have to do our whatever pujas, yajnas, if you're doing, it should be done as a matter of duty and not for some material benefit. We should not be actually going to the temple, worshipping the Lord as well, and say that I'm coming here for my promotion, I want this, I want that. So do not do it for material benefit. And always distribute prasadam after the ceremony and give dakshina to the priest. And that is how our yajna can be successful. And of course, the best thing that you can do is do the yajna for the Supreme Lord, not for any devatas. Amendra Prabhuji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, one question.
Yeah.
So the slide where you have a lot of goodness and like you're doing performing the not for the duty but for actually gaining something. So but if you look into it like generally like how it is the whole purpose based on like how have seen from the childhood is that you're raised that you do this what do you call it, process or this yoga this thing, and then this will be the outcome of this. Pretty much the entire ecosystem was built around that one.
Yeah, that is right. Good point. Actually, the scriptures itself actually give this, that if you do this yajna, if you do this particular puja, then this is the benefit you will get. So why that is mentioned is the scriptures are trying to encourage the people who are only interested in sense enjoyment, only interested in sense gratification, their own enjoyment. So scriptures are giving a way to them to connect to the Lord, and either Lord or his representatives in a way. Like sometimes It recommends worshipping the devatas, all of that as well. The reason is because if the scriptures did not give all of these processes, the people who are only interested in sense enjoyment, who are mainly in passion, they will say that the scriptures are not for us. There is nothing in it for me, because everyone wants to know what is in it for me. Like if I read this, if I do this, what is the benefit I can get? And the person who's in mode of passion, he's not going to understand this benefit, that you will, if you do it out of duty, what will happen, how it is beneficial, how will you will progress spiritually. He is interested in my material benefit. So for them, if there are no material benefits out of this, then they are not going to even take that process. So the scriptures are written in a way that people in mode of ignorance can also come and follow some part of the scriptures and progress further. People who are in mode of passion, they can also get connected and progress further slowly. And people who are in goodness, they can also take it up and progress further towards the Shuddha Sattva. So that is the reason why the scriptures also give these things, that if you do this puja, if you do this worship, then you will get this benefit. The idea is that you start doing it for that material benefits in the beginning, but over a period of time, you'll rise higher. That over a period of time, you will understand that I'm doing this puja year after year. I'm getting these material things, but I'm still not becoming satisfied. I'm not still becoming peaceful and happy. So what is it? What can I do now uh, to get that happiness? And then they will see that, oh, the scriptures are also giving me these other things, that I can do these pujas differently, or I can do a different puja, different kind of worship that I can do, by which I can progress further onto my spiritual life, and I can become more peaceful and happy. So then that is how it is, like, taken them onto the path, and then they can progress further. Otherwise, they will just remain outside the spiritual realm.
Makes sense.
Okay, right. It's the time. Okay, maybe we can cover a few more. Now the next verse onwards, the Lord is going to talk about austerity. And the austerity is mentioned in 6 verses. I don't think that we will be able to complete any of that. So maybe we can stop here. We can pause here. And from next week onwards, we can do 14 onwards. Verse number 14 onwards. And we'll try to complete chapter 17 next week. Any questions, comments, reflections, or any summary points anyone wants to mention based on today's session? Anyone? Yes, Surananda Prabhu.
Guruji, the point to take home today is, if you wanted to proceed further with the divine qualities, follow Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu.
Yeah, Guru Sadhu Shastra we have to follow. Yes, very good. Yes, Gita Jayanti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam.
Dandavat.
We try to follow the principles of making bhoga and eating prasadam as much as possible. But we also see some devotees in their own lives, they don't have time for cooking every day. So what they do is they cook once in a week and then they just store everything in the fridge. So I don't know how that works, but if you can enlighten us on that, that would be very nice. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So the scriptures is not happy with that kind of process, Mataji, because the idea is that we have to actually cook every day, so that the Lord which is there in your house, he can be fed every day. So if what is the point, like if you actually cook for the whole week, that means you have offered all of these items only on one day of the week, and then remaining 7 days you are not offering anything to the Lord. So how will the Lord stay in that house then? So that will not work, Mataji. So
Yes,
we have to
Prabhuji.
actually make sure, that we are cooking something for the Lord every day, offering with love and devotion, and then that we can have as prasadam.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so somehow or the other we have to actually find. I know the life has become too hectic in Kali Yuga, so somehow or the other we have to find some time for all of these things if we want to progress ahead into our spiritual life. Is that making sense?
Yes, Prabhuji, I totally agree. But when we go places and we see the practices, sometimes we feel that, oh, is this what Srila Prabhupada told us that, just store in the fridge for a week and then, keep offering every day. So we
No,
feel
not
disturbed
at
by
all.
that.
Yeah, if it is like stored in the fridge and then every day you are offering, then by then, because it is cooked 3 hours before, then by the time that we are offering, it is in mode of ignorance already.
Yes.
So it is stale. So the Lord doesn't accept things which are not in mode of goodness. At least minimum mode of goodness, we have to offer Him with love and devotion. Then He will absorb the love and devotion and give His kripa. Kripa means prasadam, and that is how we can have. And even those people, I'm just suggesting, just I know that it may be hard to change the habits. Even for those people, I would suggest some simple things that they can do. At least they can offer some fruits every day. They can offer milk every day. And then that milk, those fruits that they are offering, they can consume, and at least some prasadam that they are having. And that eating of prasadam, that kripa from the Lord will help them to develop mode of goodness over a period of time, and their habits will slightly change. So even for them, it is not that we have like there is no hope at all. And if they are not able to change because of their uh, very hectic life or whatever, they can still try to do something by which they can get some benefit uh, from the knowledge which is given in the scriptures.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments, reflections, or summary points? Yes, Mahendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji liked few items, so I'd like to mention that. Thanks for today's class, first of all. So demons definition, I really like that because never understood, like for me, demons was completely different, but the way you explain demons as per that number 5, number 6 was, that's really good in terms of not following scriptures and that. Also in 7th verse, you mentioned about those different, modes. So what defines activities that define our modes, worship, food, sacrifice, charity, austerity, and the way you have related it with the Vedic culture, mentioning about this tapa, yajna, and jnana, which is sacrifice, charity, austerity. One to keep demigods away, one to keep all living entities happy. Then we have one which controls your body and mind. Never heard of these words, Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, and Adhyatmik, but good to note down those points. And in summaries, one of the points you mentioned, you keep mentioning about the Shuddha Sattva, which is really good, pure mode of goodness. But one point I really liked, which you mentioned at the start of this chapter, is by end of the chapter, you would be able to know or identify which mode we are currently in, but use it in a nice way, better way to identify yourself, like which mode you are in, and then you move appropriately, right? Like from ignorance
Absolutely,
to
yes.
passion to goodness. So really like that.
It is
Thank
not
you.
for pointing out other person
Yeah.
that, oh, you are in mode of ignorance. I read it in Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. So it's just for yourself. That's really good. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Vidhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So in one shloka, you have like it is mentioned that if we do penances that is not prescribed in the scripture, like severe austerities, we can torture the supreme dwelling within. So I just feel this is too extreme. Is it really possible to like torture the supreme Lord living in our heart? If you
Yeah.
can
A very
explain
good
something.
question. You can understand that from a simple example. For example, like if a child is doing something wrong with his own body, then looking at that, parent becomes very pained, isn't it? So the same thing happens with the Lord who's sitting in the heart. So because he is the supreme father for all the living entities, and there are some demons who are doing a austerity where they are actually removing their flesh and putting it into yajna. And sometimes they are ready to chop their head as well to put into yajna. So all of these things, if they look like the Lord looks at this and says that, oh, I'm actually like this living entities, they are all my part and parcel. So I'm actually giving them all these facilities and everything that is there. I've given them the scriptures as well to explain to them how to worship. But still, they are actually doing like this and they are torturing themselves in a particular way for doing this austerity. And that actually pains the Supreme Lord. That just like a parent will be pained by looking at uh, when the children are doing something, some like they are gone into the wrong path, and even after telling them many times, if they are not coming onto the right path, the pain that the parents feel, the same kind of pain the Supreme Lord also feels by looking at we going astray. So that actually tortures the Supreme Lord in a way.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nicely explained.
Okay, let us stop here today. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.